paradigm is a multitude of ideas fixed in the subconscious mind. So what I always want to do is I want to make sure that are the ideas that I have, do they currently best serve me? And most importantly, best serve others.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Experiment Nation, Ruben Kanya here, your host. My goal in this episode is to help you accelerate your growth and success in the midterm rental insurance space while intersecting or integrating, I should say, the 7 laws of the universe that I recently tapped in by going to a retreat. I want to share these insights with you because once you start to understand these 7 laws in the universe and how they intertwine with the mental insurance strategy that you're striving to get into or double down in, I think truly you will then be more fine-tuned and more ready and more prevalent in your world. You'll have more mental insurance contracts. You'll continue to understand how to attract more of them, and you'll continuously be able to optimize your paradigm so that it can then transfer into your business to continuously serve. Okay. So I recently came back from a retreat, but I was recently in Arizona where part of what I do is I invest a lot into this. And if you're watching this, I pointed to the thing that's between our ears, that is the mind. And because I believe everything is horizontally and vertically integrated, right? Whether it's how we speak, our marketing, our copy, everything actually starts with the mind. It starts with the perception. One of the things I talked about dating back from my old episode, as a matter of fact, I'm actually going to pull it up here because I have this. A lot of the stuff that I talk about goes back to some fundamentals. I actually talked about this in episode 247 after we came back from the retreat, the MTR Wealth retreat. Every retreat that I've done, I always start with the mindset. So if you've ever attended one of our retreats that my partner, Dr. Rachel Gainsborough, and I host, I kick off the retreat always with a mindset session because I truly believe that, everything that is prevalent in our lives is based on our paradigm. And so a lot of what I do is also constantly surround myself with experts, coaches who help me reshape my paradigm. Uh, Reshaping your paradigm simply means that a paradigm is a multitude of ideas fixed in the subconscious mind. So what I always want to do is I want to make sure that are the ideas that I have, do they currently best serve me? And most importantly, best serve others, right? So what does that really mean? Oh, well, it means one of the things that I use a lot in my webinars. If you've ever attended one, is I always go back to this whole analogy of how there could be one property that looks the same, the identical property, and there could be 3 or 4 or 5 different investors who look at it differently. And the reason why 3 or 4 or 5 of these investors look at it differently is because they have their own paradigm. And the paradigm allows you to then make decisions for your business, attract the type of people you do business with, and bluntly, let's say you're trying to attract these large midterm rental insurance contracts. Part of it is shifting your paradigm. And in this episode, my goal is to show you how the 7 laws, there are 7 universal laws that exist. It's all around us. We are no different than that can truly, if we understand them, we can integrate them in our lives, which then, because we as business owners are a reflection of our business, once we integrate those in our lives, you'll start to see how they integrate in your business, right? And that is why I solely believe the best investment you can make is in yourself, right? If you're currently listening to this, one of the ways that I make the best investments is proximity to the information, proximity to what I want, proximity to where I'm going, right? So I surround myself with people who are where I want to go. I surround myself with people who are going in a direction of where I want to go. I surround myself with things that I want, even when I don't already have them. That's why I'll give you an example. Going to open houses, we go to the biggest open houses, even prices. I always have this conversation with my wife. It doesn't matter what the price is. We're going to go touch and feel what we want until it becomes real. Okay. You're going to test drive the car that you want until it becomes real. You're going to surround yourself with people who have already done what you want to do, because proximity will allow you to vibrate on that frequency level that you need to vibrate on so that you can attract the things that you can, because the law of vibration is a primary law and the law of attraction is a secondary law. We're going to talk about that. So I want to just level set as to why this is important. You might think, how does this tie in? Give us the juice, give us the strategy. It all goes back to your root cause of understanding. So I know I mentioned the three different or 3 to 5 different investors who look at the same property who see a different one. Let's talk about that, because I want to be able to define what the paradigm is, because how we do one thing is how we do everything. And if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. And that is what you need to do in order for you to look at things differently from a different angle, is by having a different paradigm. So the example that I love to use is, if let's say you're an investor and you've been, a traditional investor all your life. That's what your parents taught you. That's what your peers are doing. You might look at this 5 bedroom, 3 bath, blue home. I've used this in my webinars. Just think about this blue home, corner lot, fenced in. You look at that home, you say, you know what? I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna put a tenant in there, and it's gonna rent out. I'm probably gonna cash flow $200, right? That's one perception of his or hers reality, right? And it's not wrong. It's just a perception. But then there might be another investor that looks at that exact same home and says, because they have information, because they've surrounded themselves with people who understood the short-term mental model, that's what they do. That's what he or she is diving in. That's what they're listening to on the podcast, the YouTube channels. They're joining masterminds. That's all they're studying is short-term rentals. They look at that exact same property and say, I'm going to furnish it. I'm going to put it on Airbnb. I'm going to get a dynamic pricing tool. I'm going to get some smart locks. I'm going to get some professional photography, and I'm going to go ahead and run this bad boy on Airbnb. I'm going to look at AirDNA. I'm going to run the analysis, and boom, just like that, with a new piece of information, that exact same home is now cash flowing an extra $2,000 a month. So that's an extra zero. The other person is making $200 a month. The other person is making $2,000 a month based on the information that they have, based on their paradigm, right? Then there is, call it the third investor. Same exact property, different piece of information, different paradigm, different belief system. Says, I'm going to furnish that home, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this property on multiple temporary relocation homes databases, because I understand that insurance companies are willing to pay a premium to relocate a family that is in need of a home that is already furnished, that is ready to go, because they've been displaced due to water damage, due to maybe a tree falling in the home, due to a fire. And I'm going to place a family in there, and the insurance company is going to pay me an extra $6,000 a month net. So one investor is getting $200 a month. Another investor is getting $2,000 cash flow a month. The other investor is getting $6,000 cash flow a month. Same property, different mindset, different paradigm, different belief system. That is why I focus a lot of my attention on the paradigm, on the mindset, on the right information, on getting new information, on getting new experiments. That is how important it can be, because the exact same perception of reality can be different based on the information that we have. The exact same situation, look from the left angle, look from the top, look from the right, can look different, but it's still a reality. It's still everyone's same reality. It's just a different perception of reality. So every investor looking at that home has their perception of reality. And if you were to tell one of them about the other model, they would look at you as if you had two different heads, because it's just not something that they're aware of. And so if you think about that, what does that then mean? Then it means that it's in our best interest, and it behooves us to continue to invest in the mind, because the mind will then transfer into our daily experiments or your daily lab. And the reason that's fascinating is because that is 3 different levels. And I always ask myself, this is what I know now. What am I going to know tomorrow that I don't know today? What new paradigms do I need to have? And that is why I choose proximity. I choose to go in a direction when someone has a result that I want, whether it's the house that they want, the abundance of happiness that they have, wealth that they have, peace of mind that they have. I go to proximity because there's a piece of information that I'm going to get that's going to give me more clarity so that I can then choose to have a larger impact with respect to the perception that I have. And my reality will change, and therefore the reality of others in my life will change, because I truly believe that it's not about you, it's about who loses if you don't win. Now, if you're listening to this, maybe you have family, maybe you have a partner, maybe there's someone else in your life that can benefit from this. And for me, I know there's an entire community that can benefit from the information that I can get. So it is in my best interest. It is in your best interest that I continue to invest in myself, just like it is in your best interest that you continue to invest in yourself, in your mind, in the information, in masterminds, in the right people around you, so that you can then go back and serve somebody else. One of the main key things that I got from the retreat is think about service. Be dedicated and obsessed with the um the concept of service, right? And you'll go see how that ties into the law. So I want to get right into it. Let's talk about these laws. What are these laws? Now, I want to preface by saying that, these laws are very similar to what you would say, if you have a pen here, I'm holding a pen. If you're listening to this, if this pen drops, that's gravity, right? It doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter if you speak to the pen and I tell it, please, I want you to stay up this time. Do not drop. As soon as I drop it, it drops. That is part of law, gravity, right? Now, whether you have different belief systems, this is all welcomes. Whether you believe in karma, whether you believe in energy, whether you believe in a certain type of religion, I want to just talk about the fundamental laws that exist in our world, in your nature that you can see, in nature that you can see, so that you can actually adopt these laws in addition to your other current belief system. That's up to you, right? And that's completely fine. But these things exist all around us, right? That's why the sun rises and then the sun sets again. That's why there's a high tide and low tide, right? My key takeaway from this is that we as humans are part of the nature. That's why there's the prefix called united, universe, right? We're a part of the universe. And yet sometimes we fail to look around what's happening around our universe and we think we're different in it. And indeed we are different in it because we do have intelligence. We do have the free will. But there are some laws fundamentally that happen around us that if we do pay attention to it, we can even apply in our business. And my goal is to highlight that the exact same way I highlighted it in the recent webinar I just did for MTR Insurance Success in 2024. All right, so let's get into it. This is there's 7 of them, and I want to talk to them, right? So law number 1, it's the perpetual transmutation of energy. And so if you can think of the law cannot energy cannot be created or destroyed, right? The fundamentals. Think about that for a second, because when I think of that, I think about what we're putting out into what energy we're putting in, right? Then how you treat your cleaners, how you treat your staff, how you treat your guests, that's going to come back full circle. How you treat your vendors. If you treat a vendor and you go out of your way, this is what I always say, one of the big things that I talk about in the midterm rental insurance strategy is to go above and beyond and serve. Even if it means that you don't get a contract, I believe the contact is greater than the contract. Now, how do you foster a relationship with a great contact? Is by being of service. So one of the things, questions I've received is, Ruben, how do I market when I'm 100% full? You just serve. Being 100% occupied doesn't mean you can't help a relocation specialist or a temporary relocation company connect someone with a realtor, connect someone with, actually, there is another person that has a property. Because when you do that, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, it will come back full circle. One of the other things to think about in physics, or biology, of however you want to understand, everything is made up of matter, right? This is moving, this has moving particles, this mic, right? So when you think about the ways you're compensated in your life, if you just reflect on that, because I was reflecting on it, I'm like, this is fascinating. This is a new thing I've been really reflecting on. It's like when you think about things that are moving around, right? You think of disorder. When you think of entropy, that's disorder. Now, how do you bring things back into order? You bring things back into order, and bringing back things into order, right? It's a constant cycle, right? The laws of perpetual energy. It says the law states and everything in the universe is constantly morphing from one state to another. So it goes from order, disorder, right? Ice, rain, evaporation, right? Sun, right? So there's always a disorder. And if you think about it, anytime there's a disorder and back to order, that's how there's an exchange of money. So think about it, right? There's a booking that comes in, that the family needs a place to relocate, there's disorder. They don't know where to go. They just had a catastrophe. You come and bring them back in and give them order. You give them an option of where to stay. You then give them check-in details, checkout instructions, contract. You bring back order. Then when it's time to check out, guess what? There is disorder, like literally disorder, right? Because your entire home needs to be. That's why you have cleaners. And what do your cleaners do? They bring the home back in order. Then there's someone else that comes back with disorder or problem. They need a place to stay, water damage, etc. Disorder. You bring them back to order. You get compensated for that. Then they stay. Disorder. Maybe there's security money that needs to be taken out because they make some damages. There's an exchange of money again. And then you need to bring back the place in order. The cleaner comes in. You exchange money again because they bring your disordered home back in order. And then again, there's a contract. There's someone that moves out. There's disorder. And then you find another contract. There's back to order. So if you think about that, like that's so simple, right? Like leaves falling, disorder, get the contractor, landscaper, back to order, exchange of money, exchange of energy. That's what an exchange. Money is a form of energy. It's a form of I'm going to put energy in to bring back energy out. When you revive a place, you clean up a place, you just have clarity. It's just a transfer of energy. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when a midterm rental specialist reaches back out to you, so I'm trying to relocate a family and you're 100% occupied, if you let that serendipity go to waste and that energy go to waste, that law of frequency go to waste, first of all, if you're not vibrating on that frequency level of being able to serve families, you're gonna miss it. You're not even gonna be on that frequency level. So I'm gonna get to that in a second. But there is an opportunity for you to bring back order in the disorder, because at the end of the day, the relocation specialist is highly in disorder. Okay, and they need order, and it is your due diligence. It is in your best interest for you to bring them back in order, whether it's with your property of yours or not. We're currently arbitraging a deal right now just because we were resourceful and we reached out, disordered family, back to order, and they told us physically, like, you are our angels. Like that is the kind of energy you want to put into the universe, because it will come back full circle. My coach even told me, he's like, Ruben, the universe will never betray you, right? When you get, you put in. Now there's disasters, there's things that naturally happen, right? People were born, people die, order, disorder, right? It's just how it works. We're not going to escape death, and there's going to be constant birth. There's going to be cycle. And guess what? You go into the ground, right? You then, what's the word? Fertilize the soil, gives life to more plants turn into trees. Trees give oxygen. We breathe the oxygen, carbon monoxide. Like there's an entire cycle of this. So it's fascinating, really, when you think about it. Experiment Nation, you've heard the word MTR, midterm rentals, as it is currently a hot topic and hot commodity right now, because again, there has been an increase in short-term rental regulations, and there also has been, let's face it, a slowdown in what we were experiencing a couple years back when it comes to bookings. So with that said, short-term rental operators are looking for alternative solutions to tap into the midterm rental space. However, there is a sub niche of midterm rental insurance that I'm truly excited about, that I want to share with you, that the experience that we've had, the tremendous results we've been able to have, and that's the insurance midterm rental space, which is very different than your traditional midterm rentals. When you think of traditionally midterm rentals, you think of travel nurses. There is a space, midterm rental insurance space, that we've tapped in, where you need to be well connected with insurance and relocation specialists and companies, and understand the right type of asset required for you to be able to help these families. What's really important, that stands out the most, which you can get in what I'm about to offer you, is the understanding where to be found by these insurance companies, how to properly manage your calendar so that your listings are optimized so that they can find you, how to actually gain traction and build a relationship with these relocation insurance companies. I've put together an MTR insurance blueprint. That's MTRR insurance blueprint to cover these foundations after we've had success landing very large contracts on single family homes that literally 4x what we traditionally make in long-term rentals, and also gives us peace of mind because there's less turnover and 100% occupancy, because these contracts can start anywhere from 30 days to 3 months to 8 months and range anywhere from, again, we've landed anywhere from $8,000 to
$9,000 a month in per month on a single family home property, which our mortgages are typically around the 2,400 range, which then gives you a large spread of anywhere from 4 to 6K net on just one property. And this is why it's very hot right now. But people who haven't been in the lab with individuals like myself, like Jesse Vasquez and Dr. Rachel Gainsborough and Noble Crawford, don't have the foundations and don't know exactly where to start. And therefore, this is why I'm giving you guys a blueprint, the MTRR insurance blueprint. Go to the website, experimentrealestate.com, and get yourself a blueprint to completely change or at least have a plan B if you're a short-term rental operator looking to maximize your occupancy and profitability. We'll see you on the other side.
Okay, so that's the perpetual transmutation of energy. So think about that when you're being of service. Think about that when, we had a tenant ask us for a printer. I'm like, of course. And that's typical, by the way. Like, I'm not saying that as if like to pat on our back. That's just think about it. They need service. Provide them service. Don't be a penny wise and a dollar foolish. Get them a TV if they need a TV. You're charging a premium for a reason. It comes back full circle. They have a good experience. They tell a company have a good experience. The company comes back. The relocation company comes back and gives you another family. Disorder back to order again. And that is how you're back on that flow, right? Let's talk about the cause and effect. So remember that every cause, this is a second law, is cause and effect, right? Ralph Waldo Emerson, the famous American lecturer and philosopher, called the law of laws. Every cause has an effect, and every effect turns into cause, right? So, in essence, creating a never-ending sequence, it's common to make the mistake of looking at current results as causes. We observe the current result and internalize it, begin living from the inside out, and start using the image of your goal as the first cause. So, this is fascinating because that's a lot of what we talked about. Cause and effect is for every cause is an effect. So, for every disaster, there needs to be, there's disorder, it needs to be back into order. So, what you need to be clear on is your goal, right? What is my goal? Because for every cause, there will be an effect. Now, one of the things that I learned just with this retreat is when we set our goal, we always want to be very intentional, right? Tie it back to the service. So why do I focus on helping 10,000 families this year alone? Well, that's because if I focus on that, I'm going to tie into the third law of vibration. I'm going to attract that. Remember, all of our cause and effect should always think about others, right? How do I want to serve others? Because then I will be my reticular activating system, which is another word for like when I buy a white Toyota, I see a bunch of Toyotas. That's what I pay attention to now, right? So if I start paying attention to helping displaced families, I will start seeing more of those opportunities. If my goal is to say, hey, I'm done with this Airbnb, too many headaches, I want more of this. That is a decision. That is number one. That is very important that you make that decision and say, this is the space that I want to tap into. Now, when you tap into that space, there's a cause and effect. The cause and effect might be you change the copy of your listing, and now you're able to, because of that, you're able to then have an effect. Because you're able to help a family in need, why do you want to get into midterm rentals? Because the effect will be that you're able to help a family in need. So even if you think about that and you put that in your copy, that will then allow us to tie back into the law of vibration, which is one of my favorite laws, because a lot of people think of the law of attraction, but the law of attraction is a secondary law, while the law of vibration is a primary law. Remember, we talked about a lot of things being disorder and order, disorder. The law of vibration is where everything is vibrating, nothing rests, everything is in a constant motion, even if it appears still to the human eye. Our thoughts establish a frequency that attracts similar energy. So think about that for a second. Our thoughts establish a frequency that attracts similar energy. Thoughts are ideas, ideas are thoughts. So if you have an idea that like, hey, I want to serve these people, you're going to attract those people, because the next thing, if you have that idea, you're going to be, well, what should I do to attract those people? Oh, well, Ruben mentioned about duplicating his listing. So now when I duplicate my listing, I make myself available. For every cause is an effect. When I make myself available, now I'm giving the opportunity that's attracted or that is in need of staying somewhere in my marketplace to have the ability to find me. So we went from vibrating at this frequency level, which is maybe the LTR level, long-term rentals. Then you vibrate at this level, short-term rentals. You go to Airbnb, you start tracking Airbnb bookings, and then you vibrate at the MTR insurance level, where you optimize your listing, you speak their language in your copy, you tell them about flexible stays, you tell them you're pet friendly, you tell them that you specialize in being able to help displaced families, right? You don't make it about you, make it about them, and then you attract them, and boom, now you're at the frequency level of the law of attraction, which is the law of vibration. You're vibrating on the same frequency level that they're on, because they're looking for a homeowner that can provide a displaced home for a place where they can call home, and you're vibrating as a homeowner who's able to relocate a family that's looking for a displaced that isn't a displaced family looking for a temporary housing, right? This is why it's so fundamental to understand that, because you want to vibrate at the frequency level that they're at. It might seem a little bit like, well, Ruben, you're losing me here, but this is the law. This is, the reason why we can tune into a lot of different frequency levels. We do it subconsciously and consciously all the time, right? Subconsciously, we're at a frequency level, but consciously, we have to know that we want to get to another level. That's why I talked about proximity, because I want to vibrate at a frequency level where I'm able to start attracting these things, because I'm now aware. I have awareness. That's why I choose to go to the SDR Wealth Conference. I'll be at the MTR Summit. I do MTR Wealth retreats, because I want to attract these ideas. I want to attract the people. I want to attract the knowledge to then be able to serve the people, because I had the decision made that I want to serve 10,000 families in 2024, right? So for that reason, that allows me to then have new ideas, new concepts, because I'm attracting them and I'm vibrating on that level where it's what I begin to look for. That's why we our brains are meant to protect us, to be efficient. There's so much information coming in, stimulants coming in, that we're only going to pay attention to the stuff that serves us best, or what your subconscious mind thinks is best for you with respect to the existing paradigm that you have. And that's why a multitude of ideas, in your subconscious mind is what you're going to pay attention to. It's the level of frequency that you're going to vibrate at. So it's very important for you to make a clear distinction that this is what I want to go for. I want to help X amount of families, right? Maybe it's not 10,000, maybe it's 5 families, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 10. Define it, be clear on it. You will now be on the law of vibration. You will then attract the level of information. As a matter of fact, with that decision, if you listen to some of the previous episode, you'll see that, wait, I thought I listened to this episode already. I had never heard that before. Why is it that when you can read the exact same book, which you should, most people don't, over again, you start getting different concepts? Is because you are now vibrating at a new level, because you've become a new person. You've evolved as a person. So now the things that jump out to you that were already within the book, that were already there, jump out to you as things that didn't jump out to you before. It's because you've become a new person that's ready to accept those new ideas. Just like you can become a new investor that's ready to accept a new idea, that a furnished accommodation on the exact same block on that home can generate you 3x and triple your revenue that you traditionally make. See how about that full circle? Ain't that something? So now, law of polarity. Keep in mind, this always happens. I always need to be mindful of this myself too, right? It's such a good reminder that anytime it's not a good fit, let's say you get an inquiry, oh, Ruben, they're so excited. It looks like they want to move forward. They walk the property and then they won't walk it through. Keep in mind that there is the law of polarity. The way it's described is every entity has a counterpart, good and bad, right? So something bad happens to a family, something good can happen where we can be a solution to that. A family walks our property and we don't close on it. We're like, dang, it doesn't matter. There's going to be another family that comes in that wants to close on it. There's a law of polarity. There's good and bad. On the other side of bad, there's good. On the other side of good, there's bad. But there's really not. It's just the polar opposites of anything. And it's all about perception of how you look at it. So when I look at it, when someone walks my property and they choose not to move forward, I just look at it. That means there's going to be another family that's going to be willing to move, because they said no to another family and they're going to say yes to mine. Law of polarity, law of abundance. Have this idea. Even in seemingly negative situation, there's always a positive side. It is the law. So keep that in mind. There's always positivity. And someone comes in, doesn't sign, then the next person signs. That happened to us. Another 6-month contract. This family came in, or at least what I project, it's going to be a 6-month contract. Fire. Something happened, unfortunately, to one of our family members. A previous family had walked a month prior, and we were so ready to move in. It was a premium, and they decided not to move forward. Had I had that scarcity mindset, not understanding the law of polarity, then I wouldn't have been ready to receive this other booking, right? Now, keep in mind, this is a law. It's a mindset thing, but it's also the truth, right? It's the truth that they're rejecting someone else to come to us and vice versa. If they reject someone else, then they can come to us. So you know that that's happening all over. There's no need to be concerned about the law of polarity. The law of relativity. That's the fifth law, right? So just to recap, so far we are number one is perpetual transmutation of energy. Number two is the law of cause and effect. Number three, it's the law of vibration. Number four, it's the law of polarity. Now we're at number five, the law of relativity. The worth of a person, place, or thing is determined by its relation to something else. Essentially, everything just exists, and we assign significance through comparison, right? So keep in mind when one of my favorite examples that one of my coach uses, and it's fascinating and it's so true when you think about it, right? When someone says, "Hey, we help," this property makes some good money. It's all relative, right? Because one of the examples that I love is my this is a nice visual example. When you take the letter A, you draw a big A, and then you draw a little B next to it. You'll ask a question, hey, which letter is bigger? And for those of us, right, you can see, who don't have any visual impairment, will say the letter A is bigger. Absolutely. And letter B is smaller. But then what we do is we'll draw a C next to letter B, and we'll say, which one is bigger, B or C? Now remember, B was just smaller than A, and B is significantly larger than C. So then we'll say, well, of course, B is bigger than C. But if you then ask the question, well, is B, the letter B, is it big or small? Then it gets a little tricky. But it doesn't, does it? Because really the answer is, well, it depends what it's relative to, right? It depends what we're comparing it to, which then puts things into context. When we think of like, oh, MTR is a lot of money with respect to what? Compared to LTRs and yes, STRs, or vice versa, or STRs make more money than LTRs. Well, relative to LTRs, absolutely. LTRs meaning long-term rentals. So keep in mind, everything is all relative, right? Especially when we think about the insurance space of like, oh, you got a large insurance contract. Well, with relative to how much my overhead is, right? We might get a $9,000 contract on a home that has an overhead of $2,000, right? That's relative to that mortgage. That's large. But then there might be someone, right? I know Mike Stone that came on. He had landed a large contract of $45,000, which was arbitrage, but the overhead was $33,000, right? All relative to the size of the property. So keep in mind that especially in this space, everything is relative to the home, right? It's not about a large contract. It's about the margins, right? It's about what do you take home. That's why I always want to know when someone gets a win, I'm like, what's it relative to, right? That's the measuring stick. And you can make $100,000 a quarter or on a home relative to how many headaches, how many calls, how many parties did you have to bust in an SDR bottle? So all of that is peace of mind, return on time, return on energy, return on investment, return on energy is big. Return on fulfillment. How about that? ROF. Right? We get fulfilled being able to help these families. That's the law of relativity, y'all. Right? Now, rhythm. Keep in mind that the law of rhythm is every entity follows a pattern from the cosmos at a grand scale to atoms at a microscopic level. This is, in other words, we adhere to the same laws, forming habits and thereby cyclical results. Keep in mind, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you always got. And it's good to evaluate that. It's good to evaluate our paradigm, right? We talk a lot about phones, right? These phones are constantly getting updates. My Tesla gets an update. Today I was downloading an update. So what about your updates? Like, are you still operating with the 1990s paradigm? Depending on how old you are. 2000s, 70s, still same paradigm? New information? No? You have to think about that. If you're getting updates on your phone monthly, are you getting updates on your mind monthly? Are you getting updates on your paradigm? That's a very serious question to answer or ask yourself. And if the answer is no, then what do you need to do? Proximity of the people and places where you want to go. Because the old paradigms will get you your old results and they'll pull you back to the exact same place where you came from. And if you do what you've always got, you'll get what you always got, right? We actually had to do that, which was a little bit tough. We had to let go of a team member because there just wasn't a good fit anymore. But one of the things that really echoed and jumped out at me when I was at the MTR Wealth Retreat, I believe Dr. Rach might have said this, Rachel Gainsborough. She said, the same team that got you there won't bring you there. So if you think about that for a second, I'm like, whoa, that's a tough one. That's tough love. But that's also reality with your thoughts, because everything that brings you somewhere starts with an idea. And if you have an old paradigm, will you get to the new ideas that you want to bring to fruition? Less likely. As a matter of fact, almost impossible. That's why it's hard for people who want to lose weight, as an example, to break those old habits, because they have their old paradigm. It's not the gym that's the problem. It's the old paradigms, the old habits. They'll start with a diet. They'll start with, even anything. Forget just the gym, even a business. You have the old mindset that you're not going to be able to do it. You don't have the belief system. It doesn't matter how much coaching you get. We saw this every time. It was my mastermind. High ticket coach telling us to raise our prices, and you could just see the friction with people just unable to just raise their prices. They can't even do it. It's a paradigm. It's a paradigm. That's all it is. I have this exact conversation, like, raise your prices so that you'll attract the corporations and not Joe Schmo next door trying to trying to book your property. Pushback, immediate pushback. Paradigm. Just a paradigm. That's all it is. Immediate pushback to the paradigm. So last but not least, and I think this will relate, and I like this one, the law of gender. Every entity has an incubation period. For physical seeds, like a human baby's 40 weeks or a carrot's 75 days. These periods are known and have propelled our civilization in the past 500 years more than the preceding 13 billion years, which then means, however, the growth timeline for non-physical or spiritual seeds planted through our imagination is unknown. That means when you have an idea, you don't know how long it's going to take. But nonetheless, it's good to have a commitment level. And I relate this to the MTR contracts. The number one question, how long, Ruben, is it supposed to take? How long is it going to take? It could take a day. We've literally moved the family in within a day, just like it could take a month. The question you got to ask yourself is, am I going to commit to this? Because the skill set that you learn, whether you're learning it now as you're listening to this, or you're in the mastermind, or you're getting a coach, it's not if this works, it's when it works. It works. When? We don't always know. It might take you, X years to get the goal, X months, or X weeks. But you got to make the decision. That's what matters most. And if you get there, it actually really doesn't matter when you get there, does it? If you get there, and that's the ultimate goal, right? So that's something to think about. The law of gestation, we just don't know, right? Assigning dates to goals through speculative keeps our energy directed at them, potentially accelerating their fruition. So you can still direct a goal when you want to get to a date, but just know that it could take shorter or it could take longer. And that's okay if you trust the process and trust that the goal is the destination, and the process and the person that you're becoming, your new paradigm that you have, that you continue to attract those opportunities over and over again. That's what you get. And the fascinating thing is, like, a stretched mind cannot go back to its old dimensions, right? Which is a fascinating thing. And I don't know if I'm quoting that properly, but I know that's one lovely quote that, I'm kind of misquoting it, but I think it's fascinating that, as soon as you discover a new paradigm, you can't go back to a new truth. You can't, right? It's become your norm. Right. So it's in your best interest to continue to educate yourself, continue to be in proximity to the information. And it's fascinating how those 7 laws of the universe that I just discussed are integrated in all of our daily experiments, as I call them, in your daily lab. And that's what's really fascinating about this space. That's what's really encouraging about it, because, if you serve, it's only a matter of time. If you optimize your listings, if you do what you're supposed to do, it's only a matter of time. to serve, right? So the 7 laws again: the perpetual transmutation of energy. Law number 2 is the cause and effect. Law number 3 is the law of vibration. Law number 4 is the law of polarity. Law number 5 is the law of relativity. Law number 6 is the law of rhythm. And law number 7 is the law of gender. With that said, experimentation, the power is yours for you to accelerate your goals to 2024 and beyond. So really focus on the mind, changing your paradigm so that your belief system can start be aligned with what you want to see, with what you want the outcome to be, with the model that you want, the people you're going to attract in your life, the education that you're going to receive, the insights that you're going to get, the actions that you're going to get for the service that you're going to provide. And with that experimentation, power to you. I cannot wait to see some of you in person this year. I'm excited. Remember, proximity is everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of you in the flesh, whether it's in one of my boot camps, whether it's one of these events where I'm supporting one of my partners or one that I'm hosting. I trust that if you continue to double down on yourself, it will then transcend into and transfer into your business, because it's just one of the primary laws of transmutation of energy. Sending much energy towards your way. My job is done and yours has just begun. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Make it a great one. Cheers.
Experimentation podcasting has changed the way we operate as real estate investors ourselves, and it can do the same for you. Podcasting has been the source of the masterclasses that we get thanks to the world-class real estate investors and practitioners and specialists that come into the lab from all realms, from short-term rentals to mid-term rentals to real estate syndications to even software as a service. Owners, founders, entrepreneurs have helped enrich our experiments by giving us the education, helping us build a network, and lastly, and most importantly, a brand association to open up multiple doors for our respective businesses. If you understand the power that podcasting can have and you know that you need one for your brand, please, you can rely on our team. InvestedTalent.com is my team and the team that helps this podcast, the Real Estate Experiment, become the fruition each and every single week to educate my community, build relationships on the air, and continue to build our brand. If you know that you need to do the same for your brand and you haven't pulled the trigger yet, maybe because you don't know how, our company, InvestedTalent.com, does the end-to-end from the time that you record to the time that it is published to even repurposing content on multiple social media platforms. That's what my team can do for you. Simply go to InvestedTalent.com and book a discovery call to see how my team can help you launch your podcast.